Hey everybody, welcome back to Hot News. It's Wednesday, my dudes. Welcome. We're here. We're glad to have you here. Hope you're staying safe out in the world. It's so crazy, but we got a crazy existential question of the day for you, which is, does your stomach think that all potato is mashed potato? Okay? If you chew well enough, is your stomach like, why does he keep giving me the same meal every single time with slightly different flavoring? Is that what's going on? Is your tummy just being all begrudging because you only give it one source of potato? Huh? Is that what's happening? Fries? Mashed. Chips? Mashed. Baked? Mashed. Raw? Mashed. It's all mashed potato. Is it? Well, you debate that. I'm also going to tell you about today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Synergy, my friends. You might be working from home a little bit more than you were used to, which means you might have a work computer and a regular use computer that you have at home right now. And Synergy is going to be the perfect app for you to install so that you can use both at the same time with the same keyboard and mouse. You don't need to have two setups, okay? Synergy allows you to move your mouse effortlessly from one computer to the other. You can use your keyboard there as well. And it works on Windows, macOS, Linux, Raspberry Pi, whatever you want. It just works over the network. No special hardware, nothing else. You don't need a KVM switch or anything. So you can check out Synergy down below in the link in the video description, and you can pick it up for $29 for lifetime use for the basic one. But if you need SSL encryption for your work stuff, you got $39 package right there. You can pick it up. Make sure that you don't have to have a multifaceted setup, one keyboard, one mouse. Keep your life simplified during these hectic times, my friends. Or this just works if you're a computer hoarder too and you just have multiple devices. You can make sure that you're managing them all seamlessly together with Synergy. Big thanks to Synergy for sponsoring this video. Okay, now computer stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about Intel time. We got a lot of Intel news to get through because there's been leaks coming out everywhere. It's like a porous boat. You just drill a hole in it. That's what's going on with Intel's leak, because we got some indication of them finally catching up to AMD and moving past the Skylake architecture and introducing the Rocket Lake S platform, which is going to feature, wait for it, PCI Express 4.0. Yes, my friends, Rocket Lake. That's what we're excited for, except for we're supposed to get Comet Lake this year. So Rocket Lake will be either late this year. I doubt they're going to launch two architectures in 1 year, although they did that with KB Lake and then Coffee Lake. So it's a possibility they launched those 7-8 months apart. So we could be getting Comet Lake this year and Rocket Lake this year, but I'm more inclined to think that this will happen early next year. But Rocket Lake S platform on the desktop is supposed to bring some much needed improvements to Intel, at least based on the indication of everything that's out there. Number one, this is going to be on the 500 series chipset, which is going to be based on the 400 series chipset, which we're supposed to be getting this year. So this is going to not need a new motherboard to go from a Comet Lake LGA 1200 to the Rocket Lake, even though it's going to be a completely new architecture. However, it'll be more like an X470 to X570 situation, since it's going to feature PCI Express 4.0. Supposedly, it's going to have 4 lanes going to the NVMe SSDs and then 16 lanes that are going to be used for the PCI Express slots. So that's all great. That's the motherboard side of things, but let's talk about the chips themselves, because it does appear that Intel is moving forward on the plans to take their Willow Cove architecture, which is supposed to be their next gen side of things. But since they still haven't figured out 10 nanometers, they're going to backport the architecture to 14 nanometers. Yes, my friends, that's right. We're going to still be getting another 14 nanometer chip from Intel next year, but it's going to be based on an entirely new type of architecture. So this will be an improvement. Intel may finally have a chance to reclaim the crown with this, especially since Zen 3 is only just supposed to beat Skylake, which is Comet Lake right now. It's only supposed to be slightly better if Intel can actually come out with Willow Cove being much better than what we've got right now on the same 14 nanometer architecture. That would be possible. Obviously, there's a lot of complications for this. The architecture wasn't designed for 14 nanometers initially, and there's a ton of R&D costs that goes into backporting an architecture. So there are some people out there who are saying that this won't happen. We won't get this. We'll still get another Skylake architecture next year until they figure out 10 nanometers, because backporting's too arduous, but it's also potential that it will, and that seems to be more or less where the rumors are going right now. But then on top of that, you're supposed to get Thunderbolt 4 and Project Z graphics in the CPUs, which are supposed to be wicked fast. So basically think GTX 1050 level on an integrated GPU, which is going to be quite good, supposedly. So you could have a very decent mid-tier from 2016 gaming PC all on a CPU once Rocket Lake actually does launch. But this would be a huge step for Intel. This would mean that they're finally retiring the Skylake architecture that came out in 2015. It's been 5 years already. If this launches in 2021, that's 6 years later without an architectural improvement, which sounds normal now, but based on how Intel was innovating back in 2015, it was like we wouldn't expect this at all, just like we wouldn't have expected that our lives got shut down so quickly by Voldemort. It's kind of one of those scenarios. Everything just went wrong real fast and nothing improved.
Existence is pain
Let's continue with the Intel news because we also have one of their Lakefield processors that's been spotted, the Core i5 L15G7. This is based on their big little approach to CPU cores. It's supposed to have a Sunny Cove big core and then 4 small Tremont cores on 10 nanometers. So we're just getting a 5 to 7 watt TDP chip on small big cores, and it's not going to be something that's going to come to the desktop, but there it is. It looks like we have it finally spotted. Benchmarks coming out. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. It might just be an early sample, so we'll have to see if this is actually something that will be impressive when it does come out. But then on top of other leaks, it does look like we've got some Intel Ice Lake processors showing up on Intel's website. These are the new NG processors that we have, the i7 1060 NG7, the i5 1030 NG7, the i3 1000 NG4. These are terrible names, Intel. It's so bad. I understand that they stand for things, but it's just so hard to say. Does anybody have a worse naming scheme than Intel right now? Because at least with AMD not making any sense with their GPUs going from RX 590 to RX 5700, at least it's not hard to say. It's just new. Doesn't make any sense, but it's not difficult. You got Nvidia going from GTX 10 to RTX 20 back to GTX 16, but it's still easy to say. Intel went from 9900 all the way to I'm just gonna start throwing letters in there and as many numbers, I'm just gonna mix them up. It's gonna be like a password that you have to remember. But speaking of another password chip, the i9-10880H, which is supposed to be a laptop chip that's coming out, has a benchmark submission to 3D Mark, and it does look like it can hit a 5 gigahertz boost clock, which is 200 megahertz higher than its previous generation 9980H, which means that it's faster. You're getting tons of speed, but it also means that you're gonna consume a ton of power and you're gonna need really good cooling solutions on your laptops. Speaking of laptops, we have an indication that Intel and Nvidia will be launching new laptops on April 2nd. So a week from tomorrow is when we're going to be seeing the new Super Series GeForce cards from Nvidia launch alongside the Intel Comet Lake 10 series mobile chips like that 10880H. This is coming out of an announcement graphic that appeared from the Chinese website IT Home. In case you were looking on getting a new laptop for whatever reason, it's going to be available next week, supposed according to this leak. However, good luck trying to buy one in this current situation and see if they're actually improved. Who knows? You might be able to get them. And then the last Intel thing that we're going to talk about today is that there are Tiger Lake benchmarks out with Project Z graphics outperforming AMD's fastest integrated GPU that's out there, which is the Vega GPUs that are coming out and the new Ryzen 4000 APUs that we're going to see on mobile and on desktop with Renoir. So Intel's integrated Project Z graphics appear to be fast. They're beating the best of what AMD has to offer, although AMD's integrated graphics aren't quite Navi yet, so maybe that will change once AMD releases a Navi-based APU in the future. Then we just got a cool little video for you to check out. DeBauer got an RTX 2080 Ti CyberPunk 2077 limited edition sent to him, and he opens it, tears it down, and he overclocks it, and I'm just so jealous. I watched it. I love that card. I want that card. You can check out that video up there or at the link in the video description. But you're gonna have to watch it at 480p because YouTube worldwide is going to be setting the automatic resolution for YouTube on every platform to 480p for a month to help slow internet congestion. That doesn't mean that you can't change it to a higher resolution. It's just always going to default to 480p. So that's how they're gonna try to deal with some bandwidth constraints that's happening with everybody being at home right now, consuming more content, working from home, taking up more internet space. They are just going to default to 480p. However, you can still watch our videos in 1080p like always. And you can watch the lyrics on YouTube's new music app because they're bringing in-app lyrics to everybody, which I love lyrics. It's my favorite part of the songs. You know what's your favorite part of Doom? Old school Doom, unless you love Doom Eternal. Anyways, Doom 64 apparently going to be launching on Google Stadia for anybody who purchased Doom Eternal on Google Stadia when that finally actually does release. Doom 64 will be available for you as well for free on top of that. And then also with some Stadia news, Stadia Makers Program is something that they're doing, which is going to be helping to bring indie developers over to Google Cloud streaming gaming. We'll see if that actually works, or you know, indie devs might be smart and realize that there's no money in it, so why would you do it? And then on the other side of indie devs, we've got the Gears of War multiplayer developer Splash Damage announced a new Google Stadia exclusive, probably a timed exclusive. It's going to be one of their first on Stadia titles, but we don't have exactly what the title is. Should you be excited? I don't know. Other first on Stadia titles include Orcs Must Die 3, Get Packed, and Lost Words. Does that excite you? I'm sure it does for some of you. I'm sure you guys love that game. So speaking of internet streaming and all of that, Amazon is offering free access to kid-friendly Prime Video content for anybody who's staying at home right now, trying to make sure that parents can access over 40 free shows on their Prime Video, but also introducing new viewer profiles on Amazon Prime Video if you pay for it, so you can use that in the app and set up profiles and all of that. And speaking of a profile, that's what you have when you're on Twitter, right? And then you tweet at President Trump and then he blocks you, right? Well, that went to court a while ago and it was ruled that Trump is not allowed to block anybody on Twitter because it's his constituency and that would be a violation of his office of president. Anyways, that was appealed by President Trump and his administration and the appeal was denied and it's been upheld that President Trump is not allowed to block people on Twitter because it makes it so that he's silencing his constituency from hearing what he has to say, which is a legal right of all Americans. But switching on over to another continent, Kenya's government has finally approved Project Loon, bring internet delivery balloons to them. This is the Alphabet project that's going to be using high altitude balloons to beam internet down to people. Kenya should be getting that at some point once Project Loon is actually successful. And then SpaceX on the other side of that got FCC licensing for 1 million satellite broadband user terminals, which Elon Musk refers to UFOs on a stick. Space internet. It's a thing coming soon to you, hopefully. And what's not coming soon to you is probably any Apple product, considering all of the Apple stores in the United States are shut down. However, with all of the craziness that's going on, the Apple Watch finally got exempted from the tariffs that were trying to be implemented on the Chinese government and products being produced in China being brought into America. The US administration was trying to introduce tariffs on all of that. The Apple Watch is now exempt. News you needed to know during this crazy time. Speaking of crazy, NASCAR. NASCAR's crazy, but it's not as crazy when it's virtual, right? Because there's no high risk, no high reward. Well, it doesn't matter because it was one of the most watched esport titles ever when NASCAR did its debut, drawing in over 903,000 viewers. It's the highest rated esports TV program to date. Probably not the highest watched esport thing ever because it's on the internet, but they don't broadcast it on the TV. So this set a TV record. NASCAR TV being good. Then we're just gonna update you a little bit more on Voldemort with everything that's going on with that situation, the Death Eaters. It appears that now 6 US warehouses for Amazon have had a Voldemort encounter. One in New York City, one in Kentucky, one in Florida, one in Texas, one in Michigan, and one in Oklahoma City have had encounters with the Death Eaters, which means that Amazon's gonna have to start taking extra precaution. We've been talking about this all week, about the fact that Amazon is limiting deliveries coming into its warehouse. They're limiting deliveries going out that are non-essential, and it's probably only get worse as the warehouses continue to find more people who've had encounters with Voldemort, and it continues to spread because once you see Voldemort, you know Voldemort, and Voldemort goes everywhere. That's how it works, okay? So as that happens, where Amazon's gonna have to tighten down everything on their warehouses, which means shipping times are gonna increase, the delivery of certain goods is gonna be postponed, and it means I'm not gonna get my Persona 5 Royal Collector's Edition next week because that comes out on March 31st. I pre-ordered it back at the beginning of December. It's been 4 months, and I'm gonna have to wait longer, and I'm a little sad.
Gonna cry?
But in case you want to watch Avatar in the movie theater again, you might not be a little sad. Or Avengers, or Inception, or Interstellar, at least if you're in China, because in order to reboost their economy and bring back money into the cinema industry in China, they're relaunching Avengers movies, Avatar, a bunch of big blockbusters, trying to get people to go back to the theater for old favorites that are happening, especially with other releases being canceled as far as their cinema debut. So this would make sure that they can start bringing in some money into their economy that way, which is kind of cool. I'd go see Avengers Endgame again if it was re-released. I would not go see Avatar again, I'll tell you that much. Ferngully Space, pass. I'm gonna pass on out of this episode of Hot News. Thank you for watching. Don't forget about the existential question of the day. Does your stomach think that all potato is mashed potato? And don't forget about today's video sponsor. Buy Synergy, my friends. Use your computer with keyboard and mouse. Just 2 computers. It's like magic. Works over the internet with no pre-existing hardware necessary besides the hardware of your computer. Do it. Buy it. Down below. That's it. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. I'm Brett with the UFD Tech Channel. You've just been hot newsed. You might want to go see a doctor. It's like a porous boat. It's like a porous boat.